The truth is, today many jumps previously labeled as impossible have been conquered. Tricks never seen outside the cozy atmosphere of the gym before were introduced to unforgiving concrete. Landings became preciser, mental barriers were shattered, and we collected a good amount of bruises along the way.
Fuck me, Sam.
But with parkour being athletic in its nature, a lot of that progress has been predictable. Small gap, big gap, even bigger gap. 1 flip, 2 flips, and then 3 flips. You get the idea. Impressive, but not necessarily surprising. But parkour is also an art form, a way to see the world not just for what it is, but for what it could be. And because of that, every now and then, somebody comes along and does something completely unexpected. And in today's story, that person is this guy, an unknown parkour athlete from Japan who managed to invent a new skill that left even pro athletes shocked. For the beginning of our story, we're gonna go back to the first viral parkour video, Speed Air Man by David Belle. Which sounds like a super cool title, but Speed Air Man is actually just a silly joke, because when you say Spider-Man with a French accent, it sounds like
Spider-Man.
One of the most iconic moves in this video was this descent. David's 180 turn from staircase to staircase was originally called Retour, but internationally it became known simply as the 180. When the initial parkour wave hit Europe, the 180 was one of the most popular moves for beginners to do. I remember when I learned it myself and how cool it made me feel. Jumping from one wall to another like this gives you a sensation as if you were a video game character. Of course, literally bouncing off walls upwards like Super Mario is impossible, but at least the 180 gives you a taste of what that could feel like. I need you to remember this moment as an anchoring point for the 180 progression you are about to witness. Pretend you're starting parkour in 2006. You are 14 years old. You don't know anything about the parkour world we live in today. And for you right now, going downwards between 2 walls is already the coolest thing ever imaginable. With a great setup, you can go from one wall to another on the same level and maybe even up. In your first year of training, the 180 is one of the moves that makes you fall in love with parkour because of how awesome it makes you feel. But pretty soon you feel like there's a limit that has been reached with this move. Even if you're getting stronger overall, it's really hard to use that strength with this move, which feels like you're kind of stuck progressing it. So without noticing, you focus on moves that are a lot more fun, like the Kong Precision. These were truly everybody's favorite and probably deserve a video of their own. And then out of nowhere, a software update for the 180 was released. You're 16 years old now and show up at the spot for another session with your buddies. And seemingly out of nowhere, everybody's messing around with this new 180 technique. Your friend excitedly explains to you that this new technique is so much better than the traditional 2-foot takeoff we've been doing. The assumption was that 2 legs are stronger than 1, but it turns out it's not that simple. Let me explain why. By leaving 1 foot anchored to the bottom of the wall, this now allows us to use our arms more. And now we can lift ourselves up, plant our right foot ideally right below the ledge of the wall, and then push off into the distance. So now instead of using 2 legs, in actuality, we're able to access our whole body as one unit. And the difference this makes is pretty impressive. It takes you a while to get used to the technique, but soon you have this new 180 on lock, and oh my god, it is fun. It's so good that in spots where you could previously only go downwards, you can now go back up. Because this technique was so much more efficient than what we were doing before, the progress came in quick. But using 1 leg at a time didn't just have power advantages. It also allowed for people to enter and exit the 180 in a much smoother manner. Which means it was now beautiful to chain them together, and we were able to put them in all sorts of different variations, allowing us to fly up structures in a way that made it just look effortless. And the genius who came up with this technique is, well, we don't really know. But how hard can it be to find out? I know a few people who were at the cutting edge of parkour during those days, and the first person I saw doing it was Daniel Ilabaca. So I reached out to Danny, and he pointed me to Phil. So I messaged Phil, and he said,
"Hey man, so interestingly, I agree with you. I'm pretty sure it was Danny."
So Danny was pointing me to Phil, and Phil was pointing me to Danny, and all the other leads were going nowhere. Everybody started doing this around the same time, but nobody could tell me where they first saw it. The best I could get was a rumor that this technique didn't actually come from the parkour world, but that it was actually invented by the animators of a video game. I'm talking about the legendary Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which has a wall jump that looks a lot more similar to a one-leg takeoff than the two-leg takeoff. And this game was released in 2003, which was about 4 years before the parkour world started switching to the one-leg takeoff. The technique is definitely not exactly the same as the parkour one, but it's similar enough that this rumor could be true. But how did some video game designer at his desk figure out what took the parkour community 20 years of trial and error? So I do some good old internet stalking and find out that the animation designer behind Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time and Assassin's Creed is Alex Drouin. And I even find his email. This is the man behind one of the biggest video game series in the world. So I reach out and of course, there's no... Wait, he actually responded? And he is so nice. Quoting Alex here, back in the day, there weren't many parkour references, so we pulled inspiration from action legends like Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and of course, David Belle. As for moves like the rebound, our jump off the wall move, it was a hand-keyed animation. This means they didn't have access to an athlete who they could put in a mocap suit and then copy his moves one-to-one. Instead, they did it themselves as best as they could and then would tweak the moves manually based on how they think somebody would realistically do it. And this answer gave me some closure, but to be honest, it didn't really satisfy me. But with no more leads left, I had pretty much given up on finding a proper answer. Until I rewatched the documentary Generation Yamakaze, which was filmed in 2006. And in this video, I see William Belle, one of the first innovators of the art of movement, do a 180 off of one leg. So this is the earliest video I could find of this move. So of course, I can't help myself and go and ask him, William, did you come up with this yourself or did you see it somewhere? And William shares the absolutely adorable story of how he was training with his older brother Chow. With 4 years between them, Chow had a size advantage. But still, William wanted to keep up with his older brother, which was especially hard with the tic-tac, a step that launches you off of a wall. William could not reach the top ledge, but he kept trying and trying, and naturally he developed a two-step tic-tac, which allowed him to keep up with Chow. And these two steps became a natural part of how he would sometimes do his 180s. And this answer left me satisfied. Not because I definitely found the one source and the true originator of this technique that everybody else was inspired by, but instead because I realized that if there's a better way to do something, given enough time and experimentation, humans will find it. And you'd be right if you said all of these progressions so far are pretty impressive, but they're still believable. However, now, things are going to change because this next level up is going to take us truly into the world of video game physics. By the way, if you're watching this video and you've always wanted to give parkour a go but just didn't know how to start, then I'm here to help. I have an in-depth beginner course which will take you from zero, and I mean really zero. I was a complete nerd and not athletic at all when I started. And then I will teach you all the basics step by step until you can move creatively and beautifully through your environment with flow. If this sounds interesting, click the link in the description to go to my full beginner course. If you're not quite ready yet, then I would recommend checking out the free version here on YouTube, which is a little bit shorter but gives you a good idea of what starting parkour would actually look like. If you already do parkour, you would probably enjoy my Creative Vault hack, which has 50 moves that are borrowed from all sorts of different creative movement disciplines and then adapted to parkour. So you have a whole new toolkit that you can use to spice up your parkour training. If you check out any of those, thank you very much. Any of your purchases help support this channel and helps me make more videos. Speaking of which, in your imaginary parkour journey, you're now 19 years old, probably going on some parkour trips around the world, and you still regularly bust out a 180, even though it doesn't feel like anything innovative anymore. The truth is, the big 180 hype is definitely over, and we're focused on a lot more of the acrobatic moves. But the parkour community has become a lot more international, and you're watching videos from all around the globe. And you come across this guy, well, you think it's just one guy, but then you realize it's two guys and they're twin brothers.
Hey, I'm doing Pawson and I'm going to be Australia's first Ninja Warrior. Wait. No. So, I'm Brodie Pawson and I'm going to be the first Australian Ninja Warrior.
Who are on the other side of the globe and still very much focused on pushing the fundamental parkour moves to their limits. To you, this style of parkour doesn't feel that interesting or creative because it's a lot like training track and field. You're just trying to improve your distance or time with the same moves over and over again. However, it turns out Brodie and Dylan were onto something. Without the Pawson twins knowing, their focused training was leading them to complete a challenge not even they thought was possible. A feat so unbelievable, it would go viral pretty much any time it was posted online. And this only happened because one of their friends took Brodie to a spot and suggested somehow he could make it to the top, which seemed impossible for two reasons. Number one, it was insanely high, and number two, the walls were made of marble, which you will learn is an important detail from the man himself.
When I first looked at it, my first thoughts were, nah, it's not possible, and I just didn't even want to try it. Because on marble walls, I thought they were always super dusty and super slippery, but they just, they're the most grippy walls, but back then, I thought, they're not grippy at all. And when you dust them down, when I dusted them down, it was, the best grip I've ever, been on, so.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first time the parkour community learned about wiping dust. Clearly, their moms have been doing it for them. But even with dust out of the way, this challenge was still far from easy.
Yes! Yes! Oh, no, that means you gotta stay. That means you gotta stay now. No, that's close.
Let's even take the physical aspect out of this and focus on the mental side. Imagine for a second this had never been done before. And your buddy takes you to the spot and says, hey, if you can do 180s off each wall, like a video game character, and make it all the way to the top, I'll give you $100. I mean, for $100 you at least try once, maybe twice. But how long do you think before you give up and you say, this is silly, dude, it's not even possible? For me, maybe 5 attempts? 10? 20 minutes? Not much longer, and I would just be like, this is not a thing. Now, how much time do you think Brodie spent on this?
Dusted it all down, gave it a really good attempt, and it took 6 hours of trying. So I tried it for 3 hours, it wasn't really going, and then had a little break, came back, and then it took another 3-hour session on the same day to get it done.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, is the video of the first ever upwards 180s on a flat wall. I know, this is a terrible clip, filmed off of a camera with a phone, then uploaded to Instagram, then downloaded by me. And it doesn't give the emotional payoff I wanted in this video for this huge achievement for our discipline. This is as good as we can do, but this is actually the real first time this was done. Now for the emotional payoff of this video, I'm going to show you a different clip of a different athlete, but he has much better footage and a appropriate emotional response to this achievement. We're just going to pretend that it's Brodie instead. Sorry, Brodie, you're just too cool. It makes it hard to show and make people understand how big of a deal this is. Now that the parkour world had learned that smooth walls were not their enemy, but instead dust was, their rooms did not get any cleaner, but the city of Brisbane did get a brush up.
And I dusted down the walls, dusted my shoes, way more than I've ever done in my life.
And because twins gotta be twins, Dylan soon after followed in his brother's footsteps. And as a result, we finally have a real life Mario and Luigi. But in a way, this was also just a new beginning. With this new learning, the Pawson twins unlocked a plethora of variations using the famous 180 walls. Now here's a fun detail. Pay close attention to the hand placement for each of these different challenges and how intricate it is and makes each challenge possible.
Oh yes! Fucking let's go!
To get that right while you're constantly rotating is insanely difficult.
That's it! Yeah!
Every failed attempt means a huge height drop to concrete. Do you remember when we started out and going from top to bottom was the coolest thing we've ever seen? Well, it turns out the rumors are true, and in the land of Down Under, everything is upside down. And for the parkour world, that was the happy end of the 180s progression. But not so fast, because among the millions of people who watched the Pawson brothers videos was one person who was going to surprise everybody.
I've been a drifting star, falling without sound. I thought I'd light the sky, but I landed back down.
And it's no coincidence that this mysterious athlete emerged out of Japan. Many a parkour athlete around the world wanted to copy the Pawson twins' upwards 180. but they just couldn't, for the simple reason that the marble parkour spot is pretty hard to find. And even if you do, marble spots usually come with security guards. But that's where Japan is different. As you know, they have a lot of earthquakes, which is why they rarely use bricks for their construction and opt for concrete instead. But concrete starts falling apart if, like Japan, you have cold winters, rainy season, and humid summers. On top of that, most people think it's pretty ugly. So what's the solution? A material that in the West we usually only use for a bathroom or the kitchen. Tiles. They cover the facade of most buildings in Japan. And well, that's pretty close to marble. And now let's look at Shun, an athlete who at this point of the story is largely unknown outside of Japan. Since starting parkour, Shun always had a favorite type of obstacle. And as you can tell by these clips, that obstacle is clearly walls. And we can also notice that he clearly loves moves that use a lot of upper body strength. These days, his style would not feel out of place in a rock climbing gym. So with Shun's love for walls and many smooth surfaces around him, it felt natural for him to include the upwards 180s into his training. And after some time, Shun noticed, we only use the top of the wall. Why do we never use the side of the wall? Oh, silly Shun. Everybody knows the sides of the wall are completely useless in parkour. Is what I would have said if my Japanese was good enough and I would have been here already, but I wasn't, so he went right ahead anyway. And things started out quite innocent, but here we are, guys. After a bit of experimenting, Shun ended up with a clip that was gonna break the parkour internet and give me a parkour-gasm. And I hope after everything we've seen these last 15 minutes, you can appreciate the insane creativity and athleticism behind this combo.
Go crazy to you. Yeah, it's Blane. Yeah, here's a little motivation. I'm just here to give a little inspiration. Yeah, I got goals that I'm chasing. The throne vacant is mine for the taking. Yeah, I should have stopped, but I wouldn't. I moved mountains, they told me that I couldn't. And in the end, I'm the last man standing. Been through the fire and I'm back with a vengeance. I'm back. Look at me, I'm standing tall. I'll be breaking down them walls. Yeah, I'm coming for it all. It's been a long time coming, but we here.
This move is now being referred to as the Shun cat leap, and we've seen him expand on this by putting in all sorts of interesting combinations. It's almost becoming its own style. What should we call it? Like sticky style? Gecko style? I don't know. For me, a beautiful moment was when we saw Shun travel all the way to Brisbane and tick off the upwards 180s, but finishing them with his signature Shun cat leap.
Okay. Yes, okay.
And there you have it. This is how we got from the humble 2-leg 180 to this up, down, sideways, left, right, gecko, sticky madness that if you put these moves in a video game, I would probably still say that's unrealistic. How is it possible? Nobody, including myself, saw this coming, except maybe one guy from Russia. Inorez is another parkour athlete who has been quietly cooking in Russia, playing around with the 180 since the very early days of the international parkour community, largely going unnoticed. And watching him just reminds me of how endless the game of parkour truly is. He's in this tiny niche of the sport and being beautifully creative by combining all the variations I featured in this story, some of his very own ideas, and pulls off maybe the hardest variation of the 180, which I haven't even talked about. It was first done by Keelan Ryan in the UK and features an extra 360, which I guess makes it a 540. Come to think of it, nobody's ever given it a name because Keelan was the only one who's done it. I think we just call it a 540 retour, going back to the OG French name. Full circle. And now I would love to hear what you think. If you have any idea how this move could be leveled up, please leave me a comment below. I would love to hear about it. And please remember to never forget about my parkour online courses. If you're a beginner and you always wanted to start parkour, then my course will take you from zero to being able to do the basics. And if you already do parkour for a while and maybe you want to learn some new moves or you're kind of stuck in your training, then check out my Funk It Up Creative Vault Pack. If that sounds fun, please check it out by clicking the link below or checking out these free videos if you're not ready to quite jump into one of the courses yet. All the support helps me make more videos for this channel. Thank you very much and keep moving.